everybody out there in YouTube land. Jake of the OneManBand is back again. Welcome, one and all. RWBY Volume 4 is amongst us, my friends. We have our first trailer. Not a trailer. A character short. These are reminiscent to the first trailers that came out when RWBY first started up back in Volume 1. And in a way, it feels a lot like this is a remake of the first trailer, the red trailer. And it's amazing to see this thing out right now. So let's get down and break it down. So, as I said before, this is pretty much, it feels like a recreation or a reimagining of the first trailer. It starts off with RWBY walking through a forest, coming upon a bunch of Grimm. Now, of course, these Grimm are attacking a village, and this village is outside of any of the Four Kingdoms' protection. It's obviously a village that's been probably protected for a long time, but now that the world is in turmoil, protection is low, everybody's angsty, so the rise of bad emotions comes up and the Grimm start attacking again, and this town has fell prey to their attacks. Now, one of the big things that speaks to me is when we see a few of the citizens running through the town, their clothing. It's different than what we've seen. It seems more primitive in a way, simple, if you will. People in the kingdoms, they were dressed pretty much like we were, you know, with t-shirts and pants, capris, short shorts, all that kind of stuff. But these people out here in the wilderness, they seem to have more like robes and like just basic shirts and basic pants. So maybe there's a bit more of a caste system out in the world, where the people who live in the kingdoms, they get all the good stuff, all the good technology, all the good clothing, all the, you know, the little things in life. They're the first world, if they will, while the people who live outside of the kingdoms are more third world citizens. They have to struggle more to survive, and that makes a lot more sense, especially with the creatures of Grimm involved. Now, as RWBY is looking down on this burning town, she activates Crescent Rose, and it makes sure to show you that Crescent Rose has seen better days. It's roughed up, it's damaged, it needs a little bit a good caring for. Now, obviously, RWBY loves her weapon and would have cared for it as best as she could, but she's been out on the road in the wilderness for a very long time, 6 to 8 months even, so she probably hasn't had the proper amount of time or tools to do some good maintenance on this weapon. But I think that this gives Crescent Rose more of a personality. It shows that RWBY has kept it all this time, used it constantly. She's probably been fighting every single day since she set out on her journey. And not only that, she has a new outfit, which we've already talked about a lot, and her cape itself is torn and ruffled at the ends. Now, the Grimm have gotten an overhaul in look. Every time the Grimm get a new overhaul, they look better and better, and I love that. The Grimm look more menacing, more evil, more otherworldly, and I especially love this sort of dark mist smoke that's coming off them, and how the glow of their eyes leaves a trail as they move. It gives them a more otherworldly, astral look to make you know that these things aren't right. In previous volumes, although they were scary, the creatures of Grimm just kind of looked like wildlife. Like, they were just meant to be in the world, but they were just mad and angry and wanted to kill things. But now they have this look that they just seem so much more menacing. Now, Ruby enters a town. You know, she hitches a ride with a Nevermore. We've seen her do this before. And when she lands near a church onto a statue, crushes it. Now, this is really the first time we've seen a church/temple building in RWBY, but we do know religion exists, because back in Volume 3, the existence of the maidens would have changed religion in some way. That's what Glenda said. So, now that we see that religion is actually base and it has a pretty good structure in the world, you know, it actually has a building dedicated to it, I think this is a good way to try to discern how the people of Remnant, what they believe, what their belief system is. And that is key to figure out its culture. Now, of course, we don't get much on what kind of religion they have. All we know is that there was the church and that there is 2 statues outside of the church, both females draped in some form of cloak. So I believe that their deity, if you will, is personified as female. So maybe some form of Mother Earth or an extension of the maidens or something along those lines. I hope that at least we get a little bit more time with religion in RWBY. I mean, not so much that it gets, like, crazy and just, like, it's taking a major seat in the story. We don't particularly need that. I just think finding out little bits of information about religion would help us figure out the culture a little bit more. Another thing to bring up is that both with Ruby's new outfit and the new look with the new animation, she definitely looks older. She looks like she's 6 to 8 months older, which is good because back in volume 1 through 3, she was 15, and now she's about 16. I believe that was confirmed by Rooster Teeth. So she is still growing up, and she's starting to show more signs of maturity, but she still has her same voice, so that's good. You know, that signature high-pitched voice. Now we get to see a few new things about the Grimm. We see that the Grimm have more forms of intelligence that we believed. We've seen a few Grimm. One of the Beowulfs was throwing bricks and stones at Ruby during her fight with the Beowulfs, and when she was fighting the Gorilla Grimm, he actually picked up a Beowulf and threw the Beowulf at her to distract her so he could get close and almost hit her. So Grimm are smarter and more dangerous than we believed. I think with these new volumes that are going to be coming out, the Grimm are going to pose more of a threat. Sort of in the, you know, the first 3 volumes, they were kind of just oh yeah, they're the monsters and we just kill them. But I think at least in this volume, they're going to pose more of a threat and be more menacing, more scary. And with the Gorilla Grimm, we saw that he has he's a powerhouse. He likes to smash, clap, punch, grab Ruby, and throw her around. And you can tell that part of his face and his upper body is burned. So this Grimm has been around long enough to sustain wounds. And we see that Grimm can sustain wounds and they don't all regenerate. So maybe Grimm have some sort of, weakness to fire, or maybe they're just as vulnerable as anything. I mean, if a Grimm loses an arm but gets away, will that arm grow back? I would like to know these things, but I definitely think showing that Grimm can have scars can show you that this Grimm has been around for a while and that it's smarter than all the other Yahoos around. So we have to watch out for those. Another big thing about RWBY when she's fighting is that it seems that she's using her semblance a lot more. At least they're showing it off in this trailer a lot more. Although, I don't know what's up with the whole breaking up into 3 rose petals and then coming back together for Ruby to kill a Beowulf from behind. I don't understand that. That was weird. But she has definitely learned to use her speed to the best of her ability, and she has learned some defensive moves with Crescent Road. She's able to beat off a couple of hits from the Gorilla Grim before, you know, he collapses the ceiling of the church and she falls in. But she's learned a bit of defense, which I think is good. She's learned to take hits and how to block them. Very good. And so pretty much this trailer, this character short, is meant to show off, you know, RWBY's skill, her battle prowess, all of that. It's just meant to get people hyped. It is a hype video. There's not much to break down in this video because she pretty much, you know, sees the burning village. She goes in, kills some Grim. She gets a call from Jean, Ren, and Nora. They say that they're on their way, and then she charges back in to fight some more. Of course, it then ends with showing our other 3 girls in their respective areas. Blake is by some dock at a beach. I still think that she's in Vale. We see that Weiss is at Atlas in some sort of mansion, and we see that Yang is back in Patch. Now, talking about the Yang scene really quick, if you look closely at the far right window, the bottom right window, it almost seems like there's a silhouette in the window looking out at her. I think it's Tai Yang, and it may be a trick of my eyes, but it looks like there's a silhouette there looking out at her. So I think that Yang is going to be working a lot with Tai Yang in the coming volume. And with the look that Yang gives with the end of the video, she doesn't seem so broken down as she was at the end of volume 3. She seems to be build herself back up a little bit, and maybe she's gonna take up her gauntlet again and actually, you know, try to get down to some business. I hope that we each get another character short of our main 4 girls, and it's just gonna be great. So, now that the actual, like, video in itself is out of the way, let's bring up the big thing about this video. It's a new animation style. It's different than what it was in the first 3 volumes. Now, different isn't particularly bad. It has its good points. This animation definitely has its good points. This form of animation makes it look more anime-ish, and definitely movement is more fluid. There doesn't seem to be as much frames in between movement as there was back in the first 3 volumes, which I think is good. The animation, for the most part, is good, but it's just different. So, you know, longtime fans of the show, like me, are going to have a little harder time adapting to this new style, I think. Now, one of the things about this new style that I kind of like is the shading. They're doing more shading and shadows, and that's okay. Lighting is key, and you gotta get lighting right. In the first 3 volumes, all the characters just seemed very bright and very just vibrant out there. And I know, like, as the volumes progressed, the rest of the world got bright and vibrant, and, you know, that was probably kind of showing off how the show felt. It felt alive, vibrant, happy. Now it feels more, you know, reclusive, repressed, you know, things are going bad because the world itself is kind of falling apart during the time of Volume 4. So the shading and the shadows, I think, are going to be a good, adaptation, a good addition, but you need to make sure you do it right and that it's done correctly is all I'm saying, because as much as there was like good shading and all that in this short, there was a few scenes where it just kind of seemed off, and it just kind of like irked me to see it, that it was just a little bit off, and I was like, oh, that could have been a little bit better. Now, another big thing that I've heard from people is that this form of animation, it feels very CGI. And sometimes CGI and anime mesh well, and sometimes they don't. It's like when characters themselves are just kind of there and just kind of moving and then with the backgrounds, that kind of looks like the 2D, just more polished poser like it was back in the first 3 volumes. But then when the fighting and the action scenes get into it, it seems more CGI. I mean, it might just be me, but I think the CGI might work for RWBY, once again, if it's done well. What has been shown so far is promising, and hopefully Rooster Teeth continues to get better at it. Now, one of the big things that I absolutely loved with this new animation style is the backgrounds. The backgrounds just look so much better than they ever have. They look like a mixture of the animation and the World of Remnant videos. They just look like they're drawn and painted backgrounds. And although you know that it's animated and it's, it just feels and looks so good. And the way that I think they're doing it is that I'm no expert in animation or anything like that. This is all just my opinions, but it seems that the backgrounds, although they're backgrounds, it's like they feel layered. Like you can tell that mountain is farther away than that tree, because you can kind of make out that there's a small 3D effect to that tree, but not as much as that building right there. So it just feels like it's layered pictures, and I just love it. I hope that they keep with it and that they don't mess up the backgrounds, because the backgrounds look absolutely amazing. And one more thing that I liked about this new animation is that the faces of the characters, especially RWBY. RWBY in particular was really, really good. Her face just seemed like it was very full of life, and especially the expressions that she made just felt so much more real and intense. I mean, I hope that they keep up the facial animation like it was in this video. I hope that they keep it up and they don't regress into some of the things I'm gonna talk about now. Now, of course, with any new thing, there are gonna be cons that we point out, and right now it's once again, the CGI and the new animation, as much as I love it, I'm still not used to it, and I'm just real shoddy with it. I mean, Volume 3, that animation style was just so good. It was good. And I can see where they're going with this new animation style, but it's just gonna take a while, I think, for people to transition and adapt, and even then, people may not like it. But for the most part, as long as they're putting out good story with RWBY, I'm gonna be sticking around. Ain't no little freaking animation change gonna scare me away. And like I said before, sometimes the CGI just sucked. It seemed like, now, when RWBY fought the Beowulfs at the beginning, that was beautiful. I loved the animation in that. But when she started to fight the gorilla, it seemed like it was kind of falling apart. I don't know if I was just I had just grown used to it and I was seeing just some more things that I didn't really like, or it just felt more CGI when she was fighting the gorilla. I don't know. It might just be me. It might just be me, but these are my opinions. And another thing that I just couldn't get over was near the end of the battle when she was fighting the Gorilla Grim. Her cape kept changing mass. It kept getting long and spirally and all this stuff, and it's no! I know that it looks cool, and I know it adds effect, but her cape doesn't do that. It doesn't stretch. It doesn't do that. It isn't made of rubber. And that was another thing. At the beginning of the trailer, when she was walking through the forest, her cape, it was moving with the movement of her leg, which in one regard, it's good cloth animation. Good cloth animation. But it felt like it was thin silk fabric, the way that it was moving. It didn't feel like a legitimate cape or a cloak or a hood, what RWBY actually wears. It didn't feel like that. It felt too thin. It looked too thin. And it's the pet peeves, I know, but it's it's just these little things that just irk me so much. And as much as I said that the animation on Ruby's face was good, when it showed the other girls, it kinda like went downhill. Like when it showed Weiss had dead eyes, to be honest. That whole animation that she has, it's like when she looks down, it's like her eyes don't move at all, there's no light in them, and she doesn't even blink, she just looks down with her eyes open the whole time. It just felt really weird. It was like looking at a doll's eyes, and it's like, maybe that's what the Team RWBY was going for, but I would have liked to seen a little bit of light and emotion in Weiss's eyes. And then in Yang's eyes, it was kind of the same thing, but you could tell that there's just a little bit of life in them. But not as much as RWBY. I mean, when you had RWBY and how vibrant and alive her eyes were, and then you have Weiss and Yang's, it just felt like missed opportunity. Dang it. But for the most part, this character short was good. It introduced us to how the show is going to be now, how it's going to have new animation, and it shows us how RWBY's doing in the world. She's still fighting, she's still moving forward, she's still headed for Mistral, and hopefully we get the 3 additional character shorts following Weiss, Yang, and Blake, hopefully so we know what's going on in their neck of the woods. So, did this character short work as a hype train accelerant? Yes. Did it really add anything more to the story that we already didn't know? No, it really didn't. Like, we already knew that RWBY was okay and she was going to Mistral. This is just helping along the hype train and showing us the new animation. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I look forward to all the future stuff coming out for RWBY. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like and favorite if you did. Subscribe, of course, if you feel inclined to. Big shout out to my Patreon sponsors. Names are up here right now. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. And, you know, check out links to some other videos, some links to social networking sites, my Patreon if you want to support me there. I'll see you next time I'm out there in YouTube land. Be a good person. Tip your waitresses. Keep moving forward. And keep looking out for RWBY stuff, because it's RWBY month.